Welcome back to another episode of Elevate and Renovate. I'm your host, Michael Kern, and I'm joined today with LBK's lead designer, Julie D'Arcangelo.
It's a tongue tie.
It is a tongue tie.
I know.
Thank you
Thank you
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's an episode a lot of people have been asking for.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to be getting into the weeds of what's currently trending in the luxury home remodeling industry. The rise of multifunctional spaces, finishes, textures, and palettes that everyone's gravitating towards. We're digging into how homeowners want their spaces to look, live, and more importantly, feel. We'll also touch on the shift of open concepts to more defined rooms with balances between bold and neutral design. So, Julie, if you're ready, let's jump into it.
All right, let's jump into it.
All right, first question. So, what's the biggest remodeling trend that we're currently seeing in the luxury homes?
That's a really important, I think, great question to start with. A couple, I'd say, variety of things that I'm seeing lately. First and foremost, I'd seen a shift in like the wellness industry and how people are really wanting to kind of take that life and health and wellness into their homes, not just going to the gym and getting that, accomplishing there. So we're seeing a really big shift on like saunas. I've even seen some cold plunges, definitely renovating like gyms and incorporating all those kind of means into, their homes. We're seeing it within like a bathroom and or in like a basement space, like a remodel. So that's like, I think the biggest and first and foremost that I'm seeing a lot, like in the shift of health and wellness. But then also I think like really personalizing these spaces and making them, excuse me, as my voice is a little funky, really personalized. So, we're working with homes that are, I'd say, cookie cutter to some degree. Mm-hmm. We have these developments that are, next door neighbors just like yours, and they really want to personalize it. So we're incorporating, more architectural elements and really wanting to be like one of a kind than, your next door neighbors with just different finishes and things. Mm-hmm. And I think one other thing that I'm seeing a big shift in is technology. We're always adapting and having new advancements in that area. So we're incorporating it into like, docking drawers, outlets having USB and, easier power stations and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think those are like kind of the biggest things I'm seeing lately.
So how is that influencing the layout that makes sense for a client or even some of the material choices that you're helping them select?
Yeah. And I think that kind of plays true as to like, again, we're personalizing these spaces. But since, the pandemic, and I know that seems like a long time ago, but it's still been that shift in the way of the world that, we have these multifunctional spaces and people are kind of, we're selecting those materials based on performance and durability. And we want to have, meeting all those needs within one space. But those spaces are, offices or basements and mud rooms and things. Mm-hmm. So really adapting like everyone's need in one. But as far as like finishes and things, I think, again, it's just meeting the performance and durability because we're kind of, adapting a lot into one space.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the conversations that I'm having with clients when it comes to these projects mm-hmm. is that a lot of these spaces do tend to bleed into one another. Mm-hmm. So the importance of figuring out how you're going to tie in not just a kitchen remodel, but how that functions throughout the rest of the first floor. So things like flooring, so on and so forth, that all plays a factor of how you really finish off these multifunctional spaces, correct?
Correct, absolutely. And cohesion is like, we're really, people are wanting to kind of get rid of like these, we want to make it cohesive, I guess, mm-hmm. is at the end of the day. And, independent, but yet a little bit of...
So are there certain finishes, textures, color palettes right now that are currently dominating the remodeling industry?
I think it's so personalized. People are willing to we are seeing a little bit more of the bold hues, willingness to kind of be a color drenched situation if it's the entire space. But if they're not kind of ready to go that realm, people still want to kind of take that leap and maybe it's just within, accents and cabinetry. The other big thing that we're seeing a lot of is less grout. Mm-hmm. I love the kind of way that people really want to see full slab walls within showers instead of having, lots of grout lines and accents and seeing dirt and things down the road. those warm neutrals, really making those spaces feel organic and fresh from, you're bringing the outside in essentially, but still incorporating like the natural blues and greens. Green is definitely, I think, taken the turn over from blues over the years.
Okay.
Obviously no more whites and grays, kitchens that have been popular the last like 5+ years. Yeah, what else? But I also seen like, texture on walls. At one point we were seeing a lot of like paneling and things, which we still are, but more in the sense of, plaster walls, like Venetian texture. Again, bringing those layers and elements to the space, not just like a flat, color on the wall.
Is there certain spaces in the home that you would recommend a client go more bold in versus more, lack of a better term, safe?
Yeah, I think mudrooms are really great in that aspect. It's not the entire space, it's just a little touch of it. And then I always like to kind of bring those touches throughout the rest of the home. Entryways are also a great opportunity if you have a smaller foyer versus a larger grand 2-story. I think that's a great opportunity to have something of interest. And non-committal in a sense of, maybe it's paint, maybe it's, you're not being committed with tile and things.
Okay. Definitely a powder room, right?
Yeah, powder room, absolutely. That was the last one.
Bold.
Absolutely. Powder rooms are a great way. Again, wallpaper, it's making a comeback. We've seen that a lot. Yeah, I think wallpaper is never going to go back the way we used to frown upon it. It's become... almost, I think, on every project, it seems like we're kind of utilizing wallpaper. It just has that fun opportunity to really make a space.
To brighten up a space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Are you seeing a shift in how people want their homes to feel, whether it's more cozy vibe, more of a modern feel, more of a retreat-like? Is there anything that you're noticing?
Again, where we are demographic compared to what I see, on Pinterest or Instagram or something, might be a little bit different, but where we are primarily, again, seeing a lot more of that like warmth and wanting to kind of, if you are traditional, right, or if you lean more towards transitional or modern, they still want to embody that warmth. So not so stark whites, right? We're going to make the whites a little bit more warmer. People are still wanting to... have that spa elevated atmosphere, environment, no matter if it's a kitchen or a bathroom, but very just calming, naturally driven, like as far as elements and materials. So that too lands to flooring, right? Less artificial flooring. Like we really want to see natural wood floors, natural stone materials, less ceramics, more marbles and porcelains and things like that.
Before we jump back in today's episode, wanted to share some exciting events we got coming up. Come join us on April 18th from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. We are hosting a kitchen and bath seminar. Our president of the company will be walking you through the do's and don'ts of remodeling, what to expect from a timing, process, and budgeting standpoint. Come on in, enjoy a free brunch on us, and spots are limited, so make sure you click the link in our bio to reserve your spot today, and we look forward to seeing you there. So one thing that we're commonly seeing is requests for more of like that open concept feel throughout the home. Is there a time where it makes sense to go for that more open concept route versus shifting towards more of like a defined space or more of a private area?
Yeah, I think that's, again, since like the pandemic and people's lives have shifted, whether you're working from home or, you're just home more, I feel, as a whole. So, whether we have, I'm sorry, I'm going back to your initial question, but the open concept, I'd say less, as in seeing it as requested. Again, we want to have defined spaces and people want to have an escape. We are renovating a lot of basements lately and seeing a lot in remodeling in those areas, and I'd say that kind of tends to be a little bit more open space than you would have your main living space. So even if it is an open space, you're zoning off areas with furniture or cabinetry, versus a wall and things like that. But I'd say less open, as it used to be more popular, but people are realizing
it is good
you need
to
privacy.
Have, you do. It's good to have that little bit where it's broken out.
Absolutely.
It's an open concept's nice, but you don't want the entire first floor
No.
to be one
You
big
need a break
open.
from your family sometimes.
Absolutely. Especially when you have kids too, right?
Yeah.
So how are your clients approaching bold versus neutral design right now? Are they playing it safe? Are they leaning towards more of a statement? Or does it come back to more of their personality? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, again, like demographics where we are, I don't want to say people play it safe where we are, but again, our environments and what the architectural embodies and what the homeowner likes, we kind of, play off of that. I'm seeing definitely a mix. So if it's not bold in the sense of, again, the whole space is bold, it might just be like what we were saying, those accents, like the mudroom or the entry, or it's just partial cabinetry, like really seeing I'd say the consistency with not just like a two-tone kitchen lately, but those three tones. So it might just be like an accent wall, and it doesn't overwhelm the homeowner, and it doesn't overwhelm the space. So it's I'd say 50-50 on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it probably makes sense too from just the rest of the aesthetic of the rest of the home. If you're only focusing on remodeling a certain space in the home, you don't necessarily want it to feel out of place. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely. I always again, like to you want to be cohesive, and you want to, if one space is bold, we will still want to take some of those accents into the rest of the home. And so, yeah.
So what are clients gravitating towards in these high impact spaces?
Some of the things lately I'd say are, simple cabinetry, more, higher end as far as style and look. Maybe we're doing less glass. Some of those accents are really incorporating more metals into the cabinetry line. What else are we seeing? More stone and woods, I think I was mentioning before. Really those natural elements. So we want to bring kind of outside in and really embark on that kind of warm and cozy and, embrace that nature. But I think also the high impact spaces, I forgot to mention this earlier, which I know is one of those other things I'm seeing a lot lately, are curves. So really, encompassing architectural, those designs and elements. So
Archways.
that's what, archways. If it's not within like cabinetry shapes, we're, making them within archways, shower entryways, something just to kind of play that softness in a way, seeing, that more interest in that. And also just like the natural materials too. So like flooring, like I said, less laminates, more natural. Same with countertops, less quartz lately and more natural stones.
Okay.
So
Well, I see a lot of those archways and those more architectural designs a lot on my social media feed. Are there anything that you see online that seem to be very trendy that don't necessarily work in real life?
That's you got me stumped me there a little bit. I think what I'm seeing definitely less of, not working in real life are like the all white kitchens, right? We're not, I still see some of them. I'm not going to lie. And again, it just feels very sterile, almost clinical in a way. Again, we want to see that warmth and layers and depth, textures and materials layered in that way.
I think the whole white kitchen trend
Yeah.
tends to be where a lot of people want their home to feel timeless. And whether that's their personal feeling about what they see as timeless, or if it's more of a resale value standpoint, where if they plan on selling the home in the near future, they don't want the kitchen to necessarily be their exact style because they want it to sell quickly. The one piece of advice I always share with people is that at the end of the day, if you're going to be making this kind of investment to your home, get what's timeless to you.
Yeah.
So I totally understand where you're coming from with the all white kitchen.
Yeah. And to kind of add to that too, I also just say it's it's for you at the end of the day. It's not for the next person, because everyone's going to change something at the end of the day. So do what you like.
Absolutely.
That's what I always kind of tell them.
Well, that kind of answered my next question. Is
Okay.
how do you incorporate some of these trends that still feel timeless? But I think what it boils down to is that
Yeah.
it's in the best interest of the homeowner to get what they view as timeless, because
That-
you're going to be the one living in this space. You're going to be the one making memories in this space, right?
And really starting with, creating a base and starting with like the structure, right? If someone had a beautiful Tudor home and they said they wanted like very minimalistic and modern, hey, that's great, but why'd you buy that home? It just
Yeah.
seems like it makes me laugh sometimes. But that's where, if people aren't willing to commit in like the bold ways or, trendy ways, that's where you can be non-committal. If it's like wallpaper, that's easy to remove. Paint too.
Yeah.
I mean, no, we might not want to do it, but it's non-committal in the sense. Same thing with like textures of, rugs and pillows and artwork. So that's where, again, it can kind of a safe path into that direction.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
So what trends right now are you most excited about personally? And then which trends would you wish secretly go away?
Well, I'm loving the just the overall like the earthy feel and all those and just how everything feels warm and cozy, no matter if it's traditional, transitional, or modern, and just the layers of textures and elements into a space. Really, just I'm running with that and any design I can. Same thing with architecture, loving the concepts on playing with architecture of the home and how can we enhance it, especially if it's a cookie cutter scenario. I might get a little backlash on this one, but so some of the things I'm glad to see go away are the accents around the range. You know what I'm talking about? Those picture
Kind of
molding accents.
Yep.
Yeah. I think again they're okay, they're safe. But I think we can play with it and run with it. Think outside the box. So for example, instead of doing a picture frame, well, let's split it. Let's modernize it in a way. Your home's not modern, but we're going to modernize the installation of it, right?
Yep.
But still using a traditional tile and things like that. And another one I might get a little backlash for, but is the paneling. A lot of those slatted wall panels, not the tambour. I love the tambour and the curves, and again those arches kind of embodying that shape, but the slatted walls.
Okay.
And especially when people were doing like designs with the slatted walls, I don't know if that, but yeah.
Well, that's what people come to you for, right?
I-
Because you're the industry
I hope
expert
so.
of what's in, and people trust your
I just want to
judgment.
make the space look good. Yeah.
But that's one of the nice things about the design process, right? Because I think it's very common that a lot of homeowners get very caught up in the material element of the design very early on in the process.
They do.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you start design with a client?
Yeah. So first we start with meeting the client in the home, obviously, after they speak with you and we get to know like their programming. And after I get to, meet with them, hear their wish list, I come up with ideas. And those ideas are variables within layout design as well as pricing design. Again, to kind of show the client like what we can do, and here's what we can do within kind of those budget ranges, and here's what we can do if we're knocking down walls or taking ceilings out and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of how the way it goes. But
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, Julie, I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Mike.
That concludes today's episode
All
of
right.
Elevate and Renovate. If you guys like what you hear and you'd like to listen to more, make sure you subscribe to Elevate and Renovate on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to start exploring your next home remodeling project, and if you'd like to work with Julie, go to LBK's website. You can inquire. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about your next project.